Right, and this is what we're going to be making today. This beautiful crusty cheese Vienna loaf. Now, I don't think I can give you much more of an introductory statement other than it is absolutely delicious. And I've already had some pieces, so there you go. Come on, let's get cooking. Well, in terms of ingredients, there's not a lot to write home about here. We've got Edam's Sure Bake active yeast. This is yeast granules, along with some enzymes and bread improvers, which means that your bread is going to stay fresher for longer. Castor sugar here, high grade flour, at least 11.5% protein or higher, salt, and 330 mils of warm water. Right, firstly, 1 teaspoon of castor sugar, and then 1, 2, 3 teaspoons of the yeast. Now, it's going to take a while for me to incorporate that, so I'll go away and come back. Right, that's all incorporated. We're going to put that to one side. We're going to measure out our flour. Right, we want 550 grams of flour. Remember, always use grams when you're talking about measurements for bread making. Cups aren't very reliable. You can measure out 2 cups 3 different times and get 3 different amounts. That's because little pockets of air hang around in the flour. Okay, so that's 400. I want to get up to 550. That's 500 and 50. Perfect. To this we're going to add about a teaspoon of salt. My trusty grinder. And you want to mix that salt through as thoroughly as possible into the flour. So just do that. Now, this yeast and sugar, etc., the reason why we're adding it to the water now is because we want to make sure our yeast is good. 9 times out of 10 it will be. I don't know whether you saw that. Probably not. Here we go. Off camera there it did a little bit of a blip, and you could see then it was blipping. So this is obvious that this yeast is active. Let's leave it another 5 minutes to let it get going full and proper, and then we'll get this into the bread maker. There you go, that's a fine example of the yeast getting off to a good start. I'm going to take this and put this inside the bin of the bread maker. Here we go. Pour all that in there. Then we'll add the flour and the salt mixture, and I'll come back when we're setting up the bread maker. Right, that's all the flour in the bin. Let's get it into the bread maker. So we'll put the bin in here, and I'm going to set the bread maker. I'll just turn it on, and basically all I want to do is knead it. So it's its first knead, then we're going to put it in a bowl, cover it with a dishcloth, and leave it in a warm place to have its first rise. But let's get this onto knead, setting number 14. and start. We'll be back when it's finished. Right, once you've done your first knead, turn your dough out into a bowl. Whoops, not just yet. Let's spray it with a little bit of oil first, because we're going to leave it for about an hour to do its first rise. We'll take this out. Some people leave it in, but I just don't like my bread that crunchy. Right, it's a bit sticky, which is fine. We're just going to leave it like that for about an hour to do its first rise. Oh, and I'm going to cover it as well so it can't see what else I'm up to. Right, let's have a look at our dough after, it's quite a warm day here, about 29-30 degrees, so I thought I'd better have a look at it after 45 minutes, which was a very good idea, because it's very, it's doubled in size anyway. Let's get it out of there. And I'm just going to get the air out of it. Then we'll put it back in for our second to last rise before we form it into the shape that we want it to be when we bake it. So back in there. Again, we'll put the cloth over the top to stop it from looking, and we'll be back in another 45 minutes. Right, there we have it. I'm just going to turf this out onto the board here, and then we'll get it shaped, ready for its final rise. So we'll give it a light dusting, really light. I only want it to not stick, but I don't want to lose any hydration in the dough. There we go. That's, and just to get that lake of width, if you like, just tuck it underneath, and that'll give you your shape. Alright, let's get this onto our baking tray, and we're going to cover this for its last rise. Right, let's see whether this has risen to the occasion, and yes it has. That's looking very, very nice indeed. Oven 180 degrees centigrade. I've turned mine on about 5 or 6 minutes ago, so it's all fine now. Now just score across here. It'll give you a lovely effect as it starts baking. And now just some cheese on the top. And leave a little bit on your saucer, because when it comes out the oven you can also put some on, because the bread will be hot and that cheese will stick to it. So this is going in the oven now, half an hour. Rightio, I can have a well-deserved sit down. And there we are, straight out of the oven. Right, I'm going to be very disciplined. I'm going to let this cool before I slice into it. Right, let's have a little taste, shall we? Wow. Absolutely beautiful. Let's see what a little bit of butter can do. Yum. Let's have a taste. Mmm. Mmm. Absolutely beautiful. These are going to make fantastic sandwiches, great toast. But look at the size of this loaf. It just fits inside the breadboard. Right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you make this new version of my crusty Vienna loaf with cheese on, and I will catch you on my next recipe.